Hello fellow compatriots and welcome to yet another video! It's finally here! Finally time! Ascending Depths! Now, I have been working on this thing since late 2020, all the way to now, to 2022, and as summer is drawing near, only starting on the 22nd is the first day of summer, technically. If my calendar is anything to go by, I have a few things to make an announcement of. There's going to be quite a bit, so stay tuned to the very end. Now, as you can see before you, I have the Mark II. I took some of the armor off because I needed it for modeling, but this, even though I did like this design at first, a few people have brought out a couple of things, and so there are going to be some changes. The feet, I'm going to be retooling. Same with the hands, because I kind of like the hands especially. The feet also have that level of chunk, which I like. It's very organic. But this design could use some updates. Now, this figure isn't the only thing that I am making, but to start off with, in this video, we're going to be talking about the Mark III, especially future figures that are going to be unveiled down the line in the future, as well as steps of production, what ways that I go into producing the figures, and especially materials. Talking about the materials and everything. How high quality is it going to be, all that. We're going to be going over it in this video. Not only that, but we're going to be talking a little bit about the story and what to expect. I cannot reveal too much in regards to the story, but if you haven't read the prologue in the latest update in the Kickstarter, be sure to go ahead and check that out. Link is in the description down below. And yeah, now the Mark II, even though it's good and all, it had like good leg articulation, the arms couldn't use some work, and good head articulation. Even had like mouth articulation, which is something that I was planning on doing, but due to these particular characters, they had to be a lot more smaller in comparison to the rest of the cast of characters, because the rest of the cast of characters are pretty big. So Teryx's species is going to be updated. Behold, this is going to be the Mark III. This was the clay model. Now, with all my figures that I make, I start off with a clay model, and from the clay model, I sculpt all the parts in resin, and then from the parts that I make from resin, I make the final product. And this is what the Mark II might look like. This is not exactly what it's going to look when it's all done, because there are some parts that I can't include into the sculpt, because then that will be like a waste of resin when I go ahead and sculpt it. So to keep it simple, I just do the bare minimum, and then once I'm done with that, then I can sculpt the armor, place that on, and so that it can look more complete and finalized. And as you can see, with the first cast that I did of the model, it did not cure properly, which is why I had to scrap this version. But as you can see, it has a translucent brain. All these characters will include a transparent brain in multiple colors. And you're going to be seeing them all throughout all these figures, the translucent brains. I took brain stocks literally. They will have brains that you can put in and out of the skulls of each and every character. They will have brains. It's no joke. They will have brains. Now, of course, there will be more stages with this Mark III, which I will show you right now. So with the Mark III, I got such as a new head. Now, I've recently already casted this in silicone. As you can already tell, there's some some fragments of silicone on this head, as you can clearly tell. So this is going to be the new head, as you can clearly tell. A lot more sculpted in terms of detail than the previous one. Far more detailed, far more gribbly. So you will get to see like a nice head. And for Terex, not only that, but it will come with an exclusive mask to said character. So all you backers and supporters will get to see the new mask. And this is the clay model. Now there is a resin model, which I did update. This is clear. I make all my prototypes clear. That way I can see what I'm doing when it comes to sculpting. Because sculpting is very important. And I always try to ensure that whenever I am sculpting something, it stays precise. As you can see. And of course, there is a socket in the back here, so you can connect that, and the brain will just slide right in there, the brain stock for this head. Now, I'm gonna go straight to the artwork. That is what the prototype Mark III is gonna look like. It's gonna look like something like this, as I have drawn over here. It got a new head, and it got a new blaster / hand, which it will have like 2 of them, and it will shoot a marble out. Now I'm going to be redesigning this because even though I like this design a lot, I'm kind of fond of the older model, so I'm going to be updating it so that there's less moving parts and it can still have the same end goal in firing the marble. Of course, I'm going to go ahead and model both versions of the hand to see which one is more efficient when it comes to making the hands. But speaking about hands, I did start sculpting it, as you can see. And this is going to be the lever. I'm going to be sculpting that lever out, make it more detailed, have the ridges and everything. There's going to be a socket connector here. I might change that later down the line. It's not final. And this was the initial hand design compared to the new one. Now, as you can see, you can probably tell why I kind of like the older one. It has a much more unique design. I really like the style of it, but it's not designed for shooting. So I'm going to probably modify it for shooting if I am going to be using this hand. I got a couple of sketches in mind for it. I will not disclose them right now. But as you can see, now you may have noticed from the torso from earlier, it's a lot more detailed than that. And that's because you'll be right. And here is that torso all finalized. This is a very small torso. To give you guys a rough idea on how small this torso is, because this torso is actually very tiny. Let me get you guys something that everybody would have. At least everybody should have. Here's a Glatorian head. And there's that. Look how tiny that torso is. It's very tiny. Of course, let me get an axle here. I forgot to grab an axle. I should have grabbed an axle so that I can showcase how well everything connects together, but it's fun. There you go. There's an axle. Slides in just fine. Now some of them will be stiff. I made them stiff on purpose. So there is a little bit of connectivity, and of course there's room for the balls to go over here for the articulation. It will be similar to a Metro Matoran build, just slightly, but with more range of articulation at this small scale. And you can imagine with the head and how that's going to look like. It's going to look pretty good, in my opinion. Now, of course, it does come with a new neck piece as well for you guys to go ahead and play around with. which will be good for mocking, honestly. Instead of an axle, it has circle, and it's a lot more shorter than the Glatorian neck. It's shorter. It's not as long as the Glatorian neck. Let me get some of this hot glue out of here. There we go. And there we go. That goes in. And because the axle, it's more stiffer on axles for a tighter connection, it holds on fairly well. And of course, you can add armor or stuff like that in the front. Well detailed. Now, because this is a prototype, I'm not going to clip this on. I'm going to wait until the resin casted version is done so that I can connect that on, which I am resin casting all these pieces right now in dark blue. Dark blue, just like I did in late 2021. Late 2020, I mean. Late 2020. Sorry. It's been quite a few years since I've been working on this project, so I get the years blurred. Now, of course, you may have also noticed that limbs are different. And you would be correct. So you got these limbs, and they just slide in just fine. And you got a bend. Now, because it is going to be a knee joint, since these sockets are going to be a knee joint, I need to make this pinhole is going to be a knee joint. I made it about as tight as it's like putting a socket, an axle through a socket. About that same level of tightness to make sure. And let me put it the other way. I'm going to have to sculpt this and clean this up a little bit. But you can still put the axle through. And you can still bend the knee, which is nice. Now, as you can tell, it's a lot more smoother at the knee. So you can get plenty of articulation out of this guy once it's fully like built and stuff like that. And because it's much more tighter, you won't have to worry about legs flopping around and stuff like that. This is going to be a lot more secure. Despite it being smaller, joints are going to be tighter and stiffer, just so that you guys can have a little bit more fun. Now, it's not going to be scary tight. It's not. It's not going to be scary tight. I don't like scary tightness. So the tolerances are going to be tight, but not like too tight. And this was an older model that I did where it's a little bit more greebly when the knee bends. So it's flat right now. But then as you bend it, some things are poking out of it. And then it's flat. And things are jutting out. So it's a subtle detail, but it's a thing that you can do with this particular leg. And that's going to be the legs, the torso, the hands, the head, the brain. All at a smaller scale, all about this size. Exactly this size, in fact. Now, since I already talked about the process of... a little bit about the process of making the parts. Because I kind of hit two birds with one stone when I was talking about the process of making these figures. I did have a lot of parts. A whole tray of parts. Testing different colors and resin. I won't disclose too many parts. But there's the old foot design, as you may have seen. And this was the old head design. You may remember this, right? The old head design. Let me find... This one is actually glow in the dark as well. I believe it is. Yeah, it's glow in the dark. Let me go ahead and show you a cleaner model of said head. So this is the older head. As you have came familiar with. This is the slightly newer one. So you can see the progress. And then the latest one. So start with that, then with that, and now with this. Like, it's much more cleaner, much more sharper, a lot more detail. Especially a lot more detail. So there is a lot that went into these parts. So they're gonna be getting more and more detailed. Like, I'm not gonna stop here when it comes to detailing, when it comes to like heads and stuff like that and other body parts. They're gonna be even more detailed. Rest assured, they are going to be way more detailed in the future. I'm gonna go as Greeble heavy as possible because Bionicle is awesome and is known for the Greeble, so I'm gonna do the same thing with Ascending Depths. Now, of course, you guys will still see some Mark IIs being made. But I'm going to be sending all of my Kickstarter supporters the Mark III. If you Kickstarter supporters want some Mark IIs, just let me know. But in terms of polybag, you're going to be getting a Mark III, starting with the statue, just a solid statue, and an articulated figure. But if you guys want to get a Mark III as well, just let me know, because I have the parts, I have the molds already. So it's just a matter of making more copies out of resin, just for you guys. They will be out of resin. They're not going to be plastic. The Mark II, that is. The Mark III will be made out of plastic. Now, speaking about plastic and materials, let's get into that. I'm going to be using my own plastic that I have made. This is all flaked, and it's going to be white. I have been collecting quite a lot. There's going to be more than this. I should have wrote this down. I forgot the name of the type of plastic, but it's a very flexible plastic. It's the same type of plastic that is used for the Tahunga arms. Very flexible. It's the same type of plastic as that. So when it comes to flexibility, like the Tahunga arm, that plastic is going to be flexible like this. It will be as flexible as that, I can assure you. Now, that's not going to be the only type of plastic I will be using. I'll also be using ABS, the same type of plastic that Lego uses for these figures. But for the most majority, I'm going to be using this flexible plastic because it has a good longevity to it. You know, but for like parts that require like much more harder, solid connections, it will be ABS, which I do have plenty of ABS. And no, I'm not going to be melting Lego. I have my other outlets for getting that type of plastic. I don't have to melt Lego just to go ahead and make these buildable figures. Now, this video is kind of long anyways. So, to finish this off, this is going to be one of the many new Rahi-like species. That is going to be in Ascending Depths. This is a Kraxo. It is a flying crab. The Kraxo is a flying crab that is native to the main island of Ascending Depths. Now, the island, I will not reveal the name of the island yet. You will be having to stick with the prologue for now, because Chapter 1 is not out yet. You will find out in Chapter 1. I'm not going to be revealing when I'm going to be releasing Chapter 1, but you will see soon enough. Now for the Kraxo, a flying crab. The crab itself is going to look something like this, guys. It's going to look something like this. So it will have webbing, and it will have a function, despite its size. It will have a gear function. All my stuff have gear functions. You guys should all know this. Everything that I make has a gear function. But if you drop it, it will land, and its legs will expand. And also there will be webbing in between each of the ligaments so they can become a glider. So it is a self-guiding missile. Self-guiding, gravity-powered missile that the crab turns into so that it can penetrate through its target and eat it from the inside out. So this crab will be flying in the air, and if it sees its most favorite type of prey, it will fold itself up into a cone shape, and then until it pummels itself into the creature that it wants to eat, and then starts eating it from the inside out. It basically skewers its target, like shoots itself into the target, and starts eating it from the inside out. Now these guys are going to be a little bit smaller. I kind of made this one too big, but I can have definitely like a Takua Puku situation if I want to when it comes to this species, Teryx's species. When it comes to the Kraxo, I can imagine like one of these guys. I almost said the name. One of these guys riding on a Kraxo through the skies above. It will be so cool. But yeah, that's like one Rahi that I've got going on. There's more. I can't show you more because then that would mean I had to reveal more about the story, which I don't want to reveal too much about the story. Enjoy crab. I know you guys like crabs, so you're going to see plenty of crab. I like crabs. I love crabs. So that's it for that. So when it comes to the story and stuff like that, I'm going to be releasing the whole book when it's done. I feel like that's going to be the best way to do it, releasing the whole book. So since I'm done writing it, I got like 100 pages already. There's going to be more. So you guys are going to be having quite a lot to read. I'm already at 100 pages right now. Aiming for maybe about 500. I don't know. You'll get a decent amount of pages in. But even though I am writing this novel, you're still going to see comics. So once I'm done with a chapter, that will mean that comic production is going to start. So once chapter 1's done, a comic is already being written. Chapter 2, comic is already being written. Chapter 3, then the comic is being written, so on and so forth. That way, I can revise each chapter if I need to before I start working on the comic. Already, I am on chapter 4. So that's quite a lot to read. So if you like this video, feel free to leave a like. If you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe. And of course, if you want to see more in regards to Ascending Devs, be sure to stay tuned in all my social media outlets, links in the description down below. I hope you all enjoyed, and like always, if you want to go ahead and see more content like this, feel free to subscribe, like I said earlier. But yeah, that's about it for now. Hope you all enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys! Perseverance Model 1 and 2. This particular one has a particular function that was intended for dynamic movement and has the ability to go ahead and hurl projectiles.